Before we talk about nutrition labels, supermarket aisles, or those billion-dollar dairy substitutes, we need to go back to a time when, well, survival depended on plants that could do more than just taste good. They had to grow in poor soil, resist drought, feed families, and store for months without refrigeration. One plant did all of that. It produced more usable protein than milk, more minerals than almonds, and more long-term calories than most cheeses. And yet, today, most people walk past it without a second glance, or worse, spray it with herbicide. In this video, we are uncovering why one of the most complete food plants in human history was pushed out of modern agriculture, how it fed generations through wars and depressions, and how you can still grow and use it today. If you care about real food security and not just marketing slogans, stay with me. How this plant became a survival food long before supermarkets existed. Long before refrigeration trucks and industrial farms, communities across Europe, Asia and the Americas relied on perennial food plants that could survive neglect. One of the most important was alfalfa, also known historically as lucerne. Today it is dismissed as animal feed, but for centuries it was human food first. During World War I and World War II, alfalfa leaf meal was issued in ration supplements in several countries. In rural America and Europe, families dried and ground it into flour to stretch their bread. In parts of China and Central Asia, it was cooked like spinach and fermented for storage. During the Great Depression, homesteaders planted entire fields of it because it regenerated itself and required no fertilizer. This was not accidental. Alfalfa has roots that can reach over 15 feet deep, pulling minerals from soil layers most crops never touch. That is why it became known as the miner's plant. It literally mines nutrition out of the earth. Why its nutritional profile rivals dairy, nuts and cheese combined. When you examine alfalfa leaf nutritionally, the reason it was valued becomes, well, quite obvious. Ounce for ounce, dried alfalfa leaf contains more protein than whole milk. It contains more calcium than many cheeses. It provides magnesium, iron, potassium and vitamin K at levels comparable to nuts and seeds. It also contains chlorophyll, which, aids digestion and nutrient absorption. Unlike almonds or dairy, it doesn't require massive water inputs, refrigeration, or factory processing. Quite fascinating, really. For survivalists and self-reliant farmers, this was incredibly important. 1 acre of alfalfa, you see, could feed livestock and people at the same time. Remarkably, it could be cut 3 to 5 times per year. It improved soil instead of depleting it. In practical terms, a family could dry one summer's harvest and have green nutrition all winter. Quite the marvel, isn't it? Now, how industrial agriculture turned it into, well, animal feed only. After World War II, farming changed dramatically. Chemical fertilizer, monocropping and centralized food systems replaced small-scale mixed farms. Crops that couldn't be patented or chemically controlled were quietly sidelined. A shift, indeed, to ponder. So, here's the thing. Alfalfa actually fixes its own nitrogen. It doesn't need synthetic fertilizer at all. And, it really thrives without pesticides. Plus, it grows back after cutting. For chemical companies, well, that made it pretty much unprofitable. So it was rebranded. It became known as livestock feed. Human consumption pretty much disappeared from cookbooks. Extension programs just stopped teaching it. Food companies, they started to focus on soy, corn and dairy instead. Over time, people just forgot that it had ever been eaten. Why do modern food systems quietly discourage its use? Well, these days, most people only see alfalfa as sprouts in health food stores. The leaf itself is rarely mentioned, if at all. But this isn't because it lacks value. No, it's because it simply cannot be easily monetized. You can't lock farmers into yearly purchases when a crop fertilizes itself. And you can't really sell supplements when people can just grow their own minerals in the backyard. You can't control the supply when a plant spreads and regenerates on its own. You know, it really represents independence. Large systems, well, they do not like independent food sources. And honestly, that's the real reason it disappeared. So, let's talk about how to grow and harvest it using the old methods. Growing alfalfa is actually pretty straightforward. It prefers well-drained soil and full sun, you see. Once it's established, it will outlive most gardens. You start by preparing a loose seed bed, then scatter the seed lightly and just rake it in. Keep it moist for about 2 weeks. When it reaches 8 to 10 inches tall, you can go ahead and cut it. Now, do not cut lower than 2 inches, all right? This protects the crown. After cutting, it'll regrow in about 3 to 4 weeks. For home use, it's best to harvest just before flowering, as that's when the nutrients really peak. Dry it in the shade with plenty of airflow. When it's fully dry, just crumble the leaves by hand. Store them in glass jars or cloth sacks. You know, even one small plot can produce several pounds of leaf meal each season. How to use it as food, the way past generations did. Dried alfalfa leaf, you see, can be added to soups, stews and bread dough. Just a tablespoon in stew thickens it and adds a wealth of minerals. Mixed into cornbread, it gives a boost of protein. You can even steep it as tea, or grind it into powder and mix it into oatmeal. And don't forget, you can add it to vegetable stock as well. During those wartime shortages, families had to get creative. They mixed it with flour at a ratio of 1 part leaf to 4 parts grain. This clever trick stretched food and prevented deficiency. Start small, though. Add just a teaspoon to meals and let your body adjust. Why rediscovering this plant matters today. You know, we live in an age of fragile supply chains. Fertilizer shortages, rising food costs and declining soil quality are no longer theoretical. They are happening now. Alfalfa represents a system that worked without dependence. It fed people, animals and soil simultaneously. It created resilience instead of vulnerability. That is why it matters to history buffs, homesteaders, and anyone who cares about long-term survival. This is not nostalgia. This is practical knowledge that was abandoned for profit. Final thoughts and why this knowledge must be preserved. Every generation inherits tools from the past. Some are preserved, others are buried. Alfalfa was buried because it made people too independent. Now you know why. If this video helped you understand forgotten food systems and real survival knowledge, make sure to subscribe. Share this with someone who still believes in growing real food the old way. And keep learning, because history still holds the answers we need today.